freedom of law. That's what he called himself. Probably one of the most unusual individuals that I've encountered so far. This happened right around the time of the Las Vegas Renaissance Festival, which is held in Sunset Park. Now, a friend and I decided to go over to 7-Eleven to get some drinks and snacks. This is during a time in Las Vegas where it wasn't like super hot, but it wasn't like super cold either. So we were kind of like, dressed in our more somewhat cooler temperature-wise Renaissance garb. And we have the windows down in the car because, the air conditioner and stuff, and we're just trying to save fuel. So I figured, just let some air in. It's not to the point where we actually need to have the air conditioner running. So we get to 7-Eleven in this park in the space, and before we have time to actually get out of the car and go into 7-Eleven, here comes this guy out of nowhere, and he just comes right over to the car and actually sticks his head, I kid you not, sticks his head in through the open window in the back seat, and he just turns his head and looks right at me, and he's like, "My name's Freedom of Law. That means I'm free of the law. What's yours?" And kind of puts his hand inside the window to shake hands with me in a much appropriate greeting. And I pretty much, I just play along with it, and just give him my Renaissance character name. I can't remember what the heck I was doing with my character back then. I think I did like a pirate or something. My friend wore her Chinese dress, the type that's kind of like buttoned up on the shoulder. Very similar to Li Fang in Dead or Alive video game series, if you're familiar with the series of those video games. Very similar to that. Sleeveless dress, tight fitted, looks very nice. She wasn't doing a cosplay of Li Fang, she was just doing like the Chinese dress for the Renaissance Festival, because she didn't have the appropriate hair for the character. And then the guy who claims to be Freedom of Law notices that my friend's got like a Renaissance kind of like looking knife with her, and he gets all curious about that, and he wants to see it. So what does he do? He just grabs it right off of her lap, pulls open the sheath, and is just looking at it, and it's like inches from my face because I'm sitting closest to the window, and I'm like thinking in my head, oh my god, I'm gonna get killed, oh my god, I'm gonna get killed. I just know it. It's like when is this going to end? And he just admires the knife. He's like, wow, that's a really cool looking knife. He's like, just puts the sheath back on and hands it right over back to my friend. And then a few moments later, the guy's brother comes over and sticks his head in the other window on the opposite side of the car that was rolled down far enough for him to get his head through. And her friend is like sitting on that side. And I'm like, oh my god, dude, it's like, what the heck are these guys doing? I mean, and the thing is, with me and my friends, we're the kinds of people who are just very, very calm, cool, collected, very chill people. Because, anybody else that this happened to, the outcome would be completely different. You probably would have people who are sitting inside the car yelling at these two people to get the hell out, right? And to get away from them and stuff. But I've just never really been that kind of person to be that way. And neither have my friends, for that matter. And with my friends being locals living in the area, they're probably used to this more so than I am. I was a little bit nervous about the whole thing, but my two friends just seem to think that it's like just any other day in Las Vegas. And fortunately, these two guys were very, I guess more so curious than possibly stranger danger, red alert levels of concern. That also being daytime, I don't know if it would have been any different at night, but it was in the middle of the day, like around noon, and there's just people everywhere. You're probably wondering too, if we're all in the back seat, then who was in the front seat driving? Well, that was another one of my friends' other friends, and he had gone inside to get all the snacks and drinks and stuff while we stayed out in the car. So he's completely oblivious as to what's going on, out where we're at. And I can't really remember off the top of my head, but I think the Freedom of Law and his brother had left the scene before our other friend came out of the 7-Eleven, and we kind of told him the whole story about what happened and stuff. And And again, it's unfortunate that I can't remember what the guy who claimed to be Freedom of Law, what his brother's name was. But again, it was some off the wall, this really bizarre name as well. And like, it just surpasses my mind right now, because he wasn't very talkative as Freedom of Law was. And Freedom of Law just kept on saying his name, you know, and it was just a curious thing to occur, you know, right across the street from a Renaissance festival. And I guess that's pretty much it, you know. So I actually ended up basing a character in a story I have on Freedom of Law, and, you know, very similar type of character. You know, he's a good guy. His other name is the Corner Store, because he also sells items as well too. So this story was being kind of like adapted into RPG Maker. So in the RPG Maker game, you know, the character, you know, encounters the main character, of course, Kiarza, who I've talked about in other videos before, who's my drow. So that RPG Maker game I was making, it was actually originally the precursor to the story that I started writing, that I was later going to try to adapt into an animatic. So it kind of all comes together right now, doesn't it? And if you're wondering, yes, on the thumbnail, that is how Freedom of Law looks in the video game and in the story as well, because it's somewhat reminiscent of the Freedom of Law that we met in person. Of course, though, Freedom of Law in person had hair. My character in my story has no hair. Freedom of Law, the man in the flesh, did not wear sunglasses either. But the one in my story and in the RPG Maker game do wear sunglasses. So those are the differences. So I kind of like took my own take on the guy, you know, that we met, you know, and kind of like, you know, based a character that was somewhat reminiscent of that particular person, you know, just as, you know, a character to have in the story as well. And then also with him being, you know, like the corner store, he sells items and stuff, that came from another character idea from another character in the PJs. If anyone remembers that, there was a guy who sold things to Super, you know, and he mostly hung out on a street corner selling things, you know. So that's kind of like where the whole idea for the other name of the character, the corner store, comes from. Anyways, so I guess that's gonna be all for that story. Hope you enjoyed and stuff. If you have any unusual encounter stories or unforgettable encounter stories like this, you know, thumbnail suggests the name title of, well, let me know in the comments and stuff. I would love to hear your story. Yeah, have a good one. Stay safe out there. And I guess that's going to be all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you later. Thank you.